So let's look at what Laodicea is saying. Okay, this is important, and you've got to see this. All right, go ahead, Brother Daniel, if you want to read where it says, this is from Prophets and Kings. Okay, this is a book that they're using, Prophets and Kings, page 605, dated in the year 1914. Go ahead and read that.
The decree that will finally go forth against the remnant people of God will be very similar to that issued by Ahasuerus against the Jews.
I just want to get right into this. So when you look at this, all right, you haven't studied anything. They just take this portion out of the entire book. All right, look, you understand how the Jesuits work in the Protestant churches? They'll take a portion of the scriptures, they will read it, and then they'll make you think that this is what it means. But it's not. If you would read before that passage and under the passage, you get an entire different story. So it's like the once saved, always saved gospel, where they say John 3:16. Okay, what's the famous thing? What's the famous thing with John 3:16, Brother Daniel? The once saved, always saved.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the once saved, always saved.
Yeah, what was if you read John 3:16, go ahead, let's look at this real quick. Let me give you an example of how they work. Because when you see how they work, then you see what they're doing to the spirit of prophecy, because they know people aren't Bereans and digging into the scriptures. This is very important. Read John 3:16 real quick. John 3:16.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life.
Okay, so they say, just believe, okay? Just believe and you're going to heaven. But read a little further. They don't read verse 17. There's a very important word in there. Go ahead.
For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. Right
there. One important word. What is it? Might. Might. There's a condition. There's a condition. What is that condition? Faith and works. You must obey the voice of God, just like they did in the Old Testament, just like they do in the New Testament. It's not that you believe and go do what you want. You have to have, as James chapter 2 says, you must have faith and works. And if you don't, you might not make it to heaven. There's a condition, and they never read that condition. So when you look at what Laodicea is screaming today, these are all professed remnant churches who proclaim to speak the truth, but then they mix it with error, and they do things like our former church, where they'll take a portion of the sop and turn it into what they want to say. But if you would read the entire chapter or the paragraphs before and after it, you would see there's a complete different picture, and what they're preaching isn't even mentioned in those passages. Because they know that the sleeping Laodiceas that's with them, they're just putting them to sleep. 5 foolish virgins, representation in the last days of those that are in the Laodicean state. So when we look at this, watch this. And I want to read this yellow portion here if I can. But when we look at, can we scroll up a little bit? Yes. So when you look at this, Prophets and Kings, they use this for their 1 hour with the beast study that has deceived a lot of people on their website. Until they listen to the truth, that is. Look at what they say here. By their own admission, it says, let me read that. Many years ago, talking about SDR, many years ago, we were unaware of the depths of the deception put forth by the SDA leaders, which the SDA leaders, they comply with what they say. They're preaching the same thing about the 6th plague. And there's a reason why they're preaching all this for the 6th plague, because they know that if they deceive you in this, you will believe everything else that they say. This is the foothold for the last days. So it says here, put forth by the SDA's leaders regarding not just the removing of the truth from the Ellen G. White books, we found that they actually add Vatican dogma as well, as quoted from bogus Bibles to Sister White's books. Everyone knows who studies Scripture and who studies the SOP these books have been completely altered. And so they know this. And the Lord eventually revealed this to the obedient SDR people, and I am working on removing all traces. This is going to make you smile. I am working on removing all traces of the following books from this website of his. Okay, let's read what books they claim are corrupt. Conflict of Ages series, Patriarchs and Prophets, Prophets and Kings. Okay? Prophets and Kings, Desire of Ages, Early Writings, ? Acts of the Apostles, The Great Controversy, 1888, and The Great Controversy, 1911. Okay? The important underlining one is Prophets and Kings. Why? Their whole study is based on Prophets and Kings. That one little passage. So, if they are looking to remove all of this stuff, they have to remove their whole 1 hour with the Beast study. Because their whole 1 hour with the Beast study is taken from the book Prophets and Kings, this passage. And because those people in his church are not reading and not paying attention, they are utterly deceived.